Okay, folks, good evening. Thursday night Amorites. That's what we're going to attempt to do. So what we've got left is we finished up our papal army except the 2 stands of crossbowmen. That's kind of waiting for them to show up, but we can't just sit around and wait on them. We got to be constructive and come up with something. So those Amorites, we decided to put them together the other day, and let's go ahead and pull them back out and start working on them. Okay, and here's this little box we put in here. Let's see what we got here. And what we're interested in is the force alloy first. That's the first thing that we're going to work on. Kevin, welcome. Welcome from Arizona, Stan. All right, so this is what we're going to work on is these Amorites. Okay, we're going to go ahead and black base these guys and have them ready. They have shirts? I thought they were bare-chested. Well, guess again. Let me make sure I don't have anything I need to... Oh, this is a good one. Yeah, I want to save that particular one for using the cutting stuff like flags and stuff. I want to use a fresh one for that always. I thought these guys were bare-chested. So the bowmen have shirts on, but some of the auxilia don't. Well, go figure. Again, my least favorite thing to do is to clean these guys up. So this whole army is going to be Essex figures. It's not an Essex army pack because I don't believe in that. I just bought extra packs. I wanted the troop mix how I wanted. So, okay. So we got these guys. We can paint these guys black. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's 2 stands of fast auxilia. We'll go ahead and base them as well. That's what we're going to do first in the army. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Now I'm going to try to do something a little bit different, and that is I'm going to try to not take off my glasses. So I can't see with my glasses on, but then I can't see far away without them. So I'm going to try to look over them, and that way I don't have to take these things off. So we'll try that instead of taking them on and off when I'm seeing your comments. Now, these guys are bare-chested. Now, the bummer about these is these are all the same pose. I'm sure it'll all turn out okay. I got a lot of confidence after doing my Irish that, honestly, I was putting that army to... The heck did the X-Acto knife go that I was just using? Man, somebody needs to watch me. Whose turn is it to watch me? Okay. I don't know what the hell I was saying. Oh, when I put my Irish army together, I wasn't excited about painting them. I didn't like the poses. They looked really boring. I turned that around. They turned out just perfectly fine. Really happy. One of my favorite armies to have painted. And I suspect these guys will be the same way. Boring looking folks, but I think we can just make slight differences with each guy. That they will look cool together. Okay, I think we're good with that. Let's not put that one away. Let's put it right here. All right. I don't know why I uncovered this paint, because it's going to be a little while before I mess with that. Let's put that away. Or it's just going to dry out for no reason. Now, I should have a little container floating around here. Here it is. That I use for this. Prepare to make a mess. Just an opening the container. And let's make sure we don't have any strewn pieces of static grass, because if we do, then that'll end up just sticking to the paint and it'll get stuck on the figure. There's no reason to do that. All right. Still have static grass on here? Come on. F it. That should be enough. And I'm actually going to go ahead and take... This is just in the wrong place here. I shouldn't even have this there. Man, I swear like I cleaned this up the other day and it wasn't an issue, but look at all this extra paint that gotten stuck on there closing this up. I want to keep this fresh so we can get a good seal on it. Not that I'm in danger of running out of this stuff anytime soon. All right. All right, let's grab one of these brushes here. This one should be fine. And this stuff makes this process so much faster because it literally goes everywhere. And I mean that in a good way. Maybe this won't work. There we go. So we're going to do the boring stuff with the Army first. The more mundane stuff, and work yourself up into the interesting things. There's only one Army I didn't do that way. There's only one Army that I did the general first because I just couldn't get them off the ground, and that was my Armenians. I thought that my Auxilia and the Saloy and the Armenian Army was just so dull looking. They had no helmets, they had no armor, and I just was not motivated to paint them. So in order to get into the spirit of things, I decided to do the general and the other cataphract, the two cataphract stands first, just to get them up off the ground. But that's the only Army I've done that way. I usually leave the fancier folks for last, mainly so you can earn doing them, and also so you make sure that they out fancy anything else. You know, if they're supposed to be the nobility or whatever, they need to definitely look fancier than the common folks that just are showing up in whatever cloths they happen to have on hand. Ugh, here we are again, yawning and drinking coffee. Oh, It's Amore. There you go. That's right. It's the Amorites. That's them. A Book One army. What in the hell am I doing painting a Book One army? I have no idea. This is also a lot better for not having the paint pop. And you normally use paint, you go over it and there's some air bubble that forms there. And then you come back later and it dried and popped. Now you got this spot that's bare metal and you got to go back over it again. No big deal. It's just things that just take longer. It's better to be efficient and not waste your time on things like that. Now, one thing I will say about this primer, it seems like it takes longer to dry than regular paint. If I was using enamel paint or regular just black paint, this stuff takes a little longer to dry. Nothing realistic or out of hand, but and I think there were days when I didn't use primer at all. Back in the late 80s and the early 90s when I was painting 1/2400 scale ships, I didn't prime them. I didn't prime them at all. I didn't seal them at all. Didn't know any better. And then I saw some article on, well, there was no internet, or I didn't have access to it. And I saw some article where someone had said, hey, yeah, if you bake your ships, put paint on your ships, and then you put them in the oven, I forget what it is, 250, 350, something like that, 400, for some undetermined amount of time. I don't remember what it was, whether it was 20 minutes or 7 or I don't know. It helps stick on there. So I did that for several models in the early 90s. But I never sealed any of my ships. So, oh well. I should do a search for those on eBay sometime soon and see if it'd be pretty cool to run into some of the stuff that I had painted that somebody else was trying to unload. I remember I got all my money back out of it. Because I bought cheap and sold high. So even though they were painted, and they weren't painted by any stretch of the imagination I would be happy with now, I was able to get my money back out of it because the price of the miniatures had raised so much. I bought them, they were like $5.50 a piece, and I sold them when they were like, I don't know, $12 or $13. So, and of course all that money went to buy all my Vallejo paints. But that was a pain. That was a pain to sell all that many things. I did find a reasonable way to ship them, and that was I took packing tape, and I got a big strip of packing tape, depending on how many I was going to do, and I think it was probably like 2 or 3 inches wide. I just cut it the size, and I went and I plopped them all down bottom side, and then I took bubble wrap and I cut it about the same size, and I threw the bubble wrap over it, and then of course there's space between the tape and where there's not a miniature, and the bubble wrap would stick down to it, and I think they traveled pretty well that way. But and then you just roll them up, and then you put them in a package with styrofoam peanuts, or I don't even remember what I used, newspaper, who knows. And off they went. But I'm glad I got rid of all that stuff because it's nothing I would have been really proud of. And I'm just not going to go to the post office again. It's just so inconvenient. Their hours are terrible for starters. For, people that work a 9-to-5 job. So that's the one thing I have been happy ever since I've been playing this silly game since 2004. My painting ability hasn't changed that much. So in other words, the stuff that I did early on, I'm still happy with it. It's not like, oh, the stuff, my first 2 armies of DVA don't look worth a damn, or I don't like them. No, I still like them. The basing isn't as good as it turns out now with the Liquitech stuff, but it's still okay. It's not worth redoing them all. So I've thought about rebasing a couple of armies, but I'm like, why do that when I could just be building new ones? Like my Armenians, I almost got 100 games with them. No point in rebasing them. I don't think I'll ever get another 100 out of them, so. So we should get the crossbowman anytime soon. The correct one. Meaning I even thought they might be in here today, but they better not arrive on Monday. Nothing more annoying than getting something in the mail on a Monday and it's the day that you got to go game. Although I don't think I'm going to go game on Monday. I got too much stuff to do. Too much stuff to get done. Now, if the Pope army was completely done, then yeah. Well, let's see. I'm not traveling. Is it conceivable that I could get the crossbowmen done by Monday? Nah, it's probably not. Even if they come in yesterday, even if they come in tomorrow, that's 8 figures done in 2 days. I mean, if I painted them exactly the same, maybe, but if I was alone all weekend, maybe. But it just takes time. So just tinkering with the stuff on the channel. Took away a little fad bag logo. Added my little crest there. I know it's talked about my family crest, but I got a pretty cool one if I don't say so myself. That's one that's been in my family a long time. I think it was black and white, and my dad painted it a long time ago. He probably painted it like, around 1970 or something like that. It's actually in a frame. That's a photo of it. Decided to put that on there. And eventually make some kind of a logo a little bit more stylized of it. Yeah, but that's it. It's not as cool as Mitch's potted plant, but it'll do. Make sure we cover this so we don't have a mishap and get this stuff on the... I don't want to get it on the blue cutting board. I'm real protective of that. Even though I didn't even pay for it. Whew. Oh. 8 o'clock and I'm already yawning. Let's switch brushes. It's a little too big. One more day. One more day till the weekend. Yeah, normally I'd be like, okay, well, I guess I'll play video games for a couple days for the crossbowman to show up. But I'm like, look, I got to do this anyways. These are the next guys I'm going to paint. Might as well knock it out. One left. This is book 115. I believe they're actually called later Amorites. Well, these are apparently some kind of desert nomads that decided to, they were tired of living in the desert wastes and decided to set up their city-states. All right, let's sit this guy's down. Let's make sure we don't have anything on me. that can come off. Okay, I know we're going to do some off-white paint on this. Let's move this off to the. Let's move that off to the side somewhere. Hopefully, it can't get touched. All right, let's go pick up my reference material. Let's go grab the reference material on these guys. All right, we're going to grab this book, which is an old one, been around a long time, and we're going to grab this one. I don't know that there's anything in here for ideas, but I think there's some desert nomad type things, so give me some ideas for maybe some color stuff. This is Camel Riders. These guys are wearing off-white. We know off-white's definitely one of the colors. Syrians, Hittites, Assyrians, yeah. Libyan archers, Nubians, New Kingdom, Sumerians. That's it, isn't it? Yeah, well, this was useless. It's not one of the big civilizations, so it's not going to be on here. Okay, well, enough of that one. All right, there's definitely stuff on the Amorites here, so. This is Armies of Ancient Near East. It's been around a while. This is a War Games Research Group book, and a lot of the miniatures have been cast based on information that's in here. It's funny because in here there's not one that is for the Amorites. I know there's information here. So let's go to, this is Egypt, New Kingdom, Libyan Kushite periods, Nubia, the Libyans, Kingdom of Kush, the Dynasty of Akkad. Okay, it comes right after that. Third Dynasty of Ur. Heard of those guys. Okay. Isin, Larsa, and the Amorite settlement. Following the collapse of the Third Dynasty of Ur, a successor kingdom, centered in the city of Isin, I-S-I-N, managed to maintain peace and stability in Sumer. The kings of the First Dynasty of Isin deliberately strove to maintain the traditions of the kings of Ur, even to the extent of retaining Sumerian as the official language of inscription, though the majority of the population now spoke Akkadian. During this period, in the early years of the second millennium, many Amorite tribes ceased to be nomadic. Instead, in large numbers, they settled around and in some cases inside the old urban centers throughout Mesopotamian Syria. This process of gradual urbanization created numerous small Amorite kingdoms, of which the most significant were Aleppo, Yamkad, Katna, Mari, and Ashur. The Amorites in southern Mesopotamia were quickly assimilated culturally, and by the end of the Old Babylonian period had been totally absorbed by the native Akkadian-speaking population. In Assyria, however, the Amorite dynasty of Shamsi Adad I was later regarded as an unwelcome intrusion of foreigners not of Assyrian blood. Of many Amorite kingdoms established in Mesopotamia, two in particular achieved considerable power and importance. The first of these was the kingdom of Larsa, founded by Gungunum, in around 1732 BC, a sheik of the Amorites, whose tribe settled about Larsa in the last days of the third dynasty's kings of Ur. Gungunum, that's a fun name to say. Gungunum seized Ur from Lipit Ishtar of Ishin and gained control of the lucrative trade between Ur and Dilmun, which is modern Bahrain. In copper, gold, ivory, and precious stones from their sources of supply in Iran, Oman, and possibly India. Both Isin and Larsa fought for dominance among the multitude of Amorite kingdoms. The king of both cities claimed to be king of Sumer and Akkad. However, by 1860 BC, Ira-Imiti, the king of Isin, ruled little more than the capital, and Amorite sheiks had established kingdoms around Kish, Uruk, Marad, Sippar, and a small town called Babilim, or Babylon. Ira-Imiti must have been an exceedingly unlucky man. When an omen foretold the death of the king, Ira-Imiti followed the standard procedure and proclaimed a substitute king, his gardener, and Nilbani. After a short time, such substitutes were usually put to death, thereby the omen being fulfilled. Unfortunately, Ira-Imiti ate a precipitate bowl of broth and died, leaving the gardener as king. The hurriedly deified Enil Ibani, the gardener, ruled the steadily eroding state of Ishin for over 20 years. He was unlucky and the gardener was lucky. Well, that's all it says about the history of these Amorite folks. And here it says the Amorite world. There's actually a picture of the Amorite world. Hopefully that's right side up. So here it has some of the city-states that it was talking about. So it says kingdoms, but they're really like city-states. So this is like Amorite city-states. So these are like the pre-Babylonian Babylonians. Okay. And of course there's going to be other stuff that talks about them when you look at the actual illustrations. So let's find some of these illustrations of these folks. Elamites. Now, I guarantee that there's drawings of these particular folks in here because that's what Essex used to make them. And I want to see what kind of materials they used. Although when you get to the shield parts, they definitely used goat. So, but these particular, none of these guys have goat things. Okay, these are Assyrians, Hebrew infantrymen, sea peoples, Hittites, Canaanites. Is the wind just a little too high? Let's turn this down. It's starting to remind me of my office at work. Every time I let go of a piece of paper, it's fluttering around. Hyksos, Old Babylonian. Okay, here's some infantrymen. Okay, these guys are Akkadians, and then we roll right into Shugli, the king of Ur, mounted messenger, infantrymen, first dynasty of Ishin. That's why I wanted to read it, because that's these guys right here. And some of my solid auxilia look like that. This is what the blades look like, and this is what the solid ox looks like. These guys right here. What reference is that? That's armies of the ancient Near East, 3000 BC to 539 BC, by Nigel Stillman and Nigel Tallis, the two Nigels. So this is actually a reference book. I don't know what its original printing is. It's got to be like in the 70s, maybe early 80s. 84 it says here. A lot of the Essex figures are cast from these illustrations that are in here. And in particular, these two guys. This is the blade figure, and this is this guy here with a shield. Both of those are figures as well that are on that. Reconstruction of the spearmen of the early Ishan dynasties based on representational, textual, and archaeological sources. He wears a pleated cord, leather, or reed helmet, and that's this figure right here. Let's pull him out. We're not painting him yet, but he's coming. See if we can get this guy to come up. See, you could tell it's kind of like a reed helmet. Okay. And he wears a plated cord, leather, or reed helmet. Described in later text of the Old Babylonian period as kubisu sha alshim, helmets of rope, similar to that worn by Figure 71. This type of helmet is shown by being worn by mounted messengers or officers of the Ishan dynasty and probably indicates a shortage of bronze in Mesopotamia during this unsettled period. The helmet's crest is probably formed by leaving the loose ends of the plated material uncut. Both helmet and crest were probably dyed either red or green or red, although it's possible they were left a natural color, yellowish brown in the case of goat leather. Okay. Then we're talking about both of these figures here down here at the bottom. On to the next page. This soldier is equipped with a type of Amorite shield adopted in Mesopotamia at this time. Text from Ishan dealing with the manufacture of leather goods in palace workshops use an Akkadian loanwork, kakaboom, to describe... sounds like something you'd throw out, you'd make with cow manure, like some kind of a grenade. Kakaboom! To describe shields of this kind. The materials used to make them include goat and sheep leather, often described as hairy. So if left undyed, the finished product would most likely be black, or mottled black, and white in color. The use of ox hides and wild ox hides for the construction of some shields probably suggests that a traditional large Sumerian shield was still made in small numbers. Okay? The man's spear is of the long-shafted type, which is probably known as shukurgalum, or big needle, known since early dynastic period, but now gradually going out of use. Text from Ishan also mention the production of leather bags for bows and reed quivers for arrows. 77 is a lighter armed soldier and possibly an Amorite auxiliary. He carries an Amorite shield and is armed with 2 javelins and a bronze sickle sword. The sickle sword was a favorite, though expensive weapon used widely in the Near East, following its invention during the 3rd millennium BC. By the Third period, the weapon's blade was in generally longer and deeper in relation to the shaft, producing an extremely efficient, balanced, slashing sword. Okay, well that's interesting. So these really light armed guys almost look like these bowmen that are here. Yes, those are Essex casts. That's exactly what they are. So I'm going to read what the description is of this guy, because honestly, he looks awfully a lot like a guy I'm getting ready to paint. Because these are nomadic Bedouins, and that's where these people came from. The nomadic peoples who lived in southern Palestine, Sinai, and eastern desert of Egypt were known to the Egyptians such vague terms as sand dwellers, wild ones, pillar folk, a reference to the stones used to mark their routes, and throw stick people. Look out, there's throw stick people coming. These people are Amu, as depicted on the walls of the Middle Kingdom tomb of Kanutopek at Beni Hassan. They are shown visiting the monarch. Remember, their families over the trade. The leading warrior here is dressed in a characteristic coat of many colors, a highly decorated patterned sleeveless woolen garment. The second warrior wears a patterned wraparound kilt instead. Colors used, this is important, were red, blue, and white. The people were light-skinned with black wavy hair and thin pointed beards. Over his shoulder, the leading warrior carries the necessity of desert life, a water skin. These figures were also representative of the nomadic tribesmen who migrated in large numbers from the Syrian steppe into the Fertile Crescent during the second millennium BC. These western nomads were called Martu or Amurim, Westerners by the Mesopotamians, though they are generally known now by the biblical Amorites. So see, these do represent Amorites. Okay. Hated and despised by the settled Mesopotamians, the Martu were nevertheless employed as agricultural laborers and mercenaries from the late dynastic period. By the third dynasty of Ur, however, Amorite trading and plundering had become so serious that a great wall named Murik Tidnum, which keeps out the Tidnum, an Amorite tribal group, was constructed during the reign of Shu-Suen. It was 270 kilometers long and crossed over both the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers on the desert fringe of the empire. The wall was finally penetrated during the reign of Ibn-Sin, and the widespread Amorite incursions contributed to the collapse of the kingdom of Ur. Okay, Joe, so these are the guys that brought down your kingdom. Okay, so now we got some more infantry here. This almost looks like my archers as well. Camp with tall stones. There you go. Actually, I'm going to do a camp. My camp is for these guys is going to have a camel on it, and the camp for these guys is going to double as their baggage element. So this is an army that I'm planning in advance because you can actually have a camp that's 40 by 20. So it's like I believe it's a base width wide by half a base width deep. Talk about a tiny little camp. But they can have one of that size, so they can certainly have a 40 by 40. So I'm going to make a 40 by 40 stand with some camels and stuff on there, and that's going to be their baggage element and their camp. So kill two birds with one stone. So this infantry here, based on the numerous representations of soldiers and military scenes on terracottas of the old Babylonian period. As such, they illustrate the soldiers of Babylon, Eshuna, Larsa, and Ashur. Remember those last two, Larsa and Ashur, are Amorite city-states, Amorite kingdoms. 79, that's this guy right here. He looks like this Auxilia guy, except my Auxilia guy happens to have no shield, but this figure right here, he's got multiple javelins on him. Okay. 79 is based on terracotta plaque from Ur and resembles the earlier figure 77, suggesting that the later figure is indeed an Amorite. He wears a simple wraparound kilt with a triple-stranded belt. The belt passing over the right shoulder is probably a baldric for his sickle sword. Does he have a sickle sword? Looks like this guy's unarmed. He's just wearing something on there. Tell me colors. His shield of an Amorite type features two additional vertical supporting struts between the cross formers of the typical X framework. This produces a shield with a straight rather than concave sides. The animal's tail has been retained on the hide for decorative effect. Oh, I see. It's got like a tail here at the bottom. So it's stretched out and they left the tail on there. Two short javelins are carried behind the shield. I'm going to just skip ahead, reading on here. Clearly larger shields of Amorite type, as carried by this figure, although the smaller shields would be less than half this size, are probably carried by light troops, like 79. Leather items in Babylonia had to be regularly rubbed with vegetable oil to prevent their drying and cracking in the intense heat of summer. Interesting. And administrative texts record the issue of oil to soldiers for rubbing shields. This practice is also mentioned in the Bible, where Saul's leather shield is left unanointed with oil. Okay. '81's an archer, this figure down here. He's dressed in an elaborate wraparound kilt, which is partially edged with a multicolored woolen trim that becomes very popular from this time on. A leather or metal belt is worn about the waist, and a decorated linen shirt. Okay, so linen shirt, cool. Man's hair is cut short and secured in the back with a metal hairband. I don't see that part. Okay, so the fringes are multicolored. What were the colors they said they had? They had white, they had blue, and they had red. Man, I got to be careful with that, because if I build an Assyrian army, those guys have those same trim colors as well. Okay, I think we got enough to go on between that stuff there. I just wanted to make sure that, there's always artistic license in it, but I always like reading that stuff because it kind of gives you an idea of maybe not what to do, but maybe what not to do. Okay? So, now that we've story time, should have used a Kerboli. Why do I feel like I know what that is? Okay, let's put this stuff away. These are the remaining ones. Okay, now let's segregate these guys. Just keep this alloy here. That's what we're going to do first. Okay, move these guys off to the side. Here's what we're going to paint. Let's go over here. Let's wake the F up here. All right. Well, normally I would just paint one guy to see how he turns out. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think we're going to paint all four at once. Oh my God, the world's coming to an end. I am painting multiple figures at once. I've done it before. These guys aren't that different from each other. So we are going to do them differently. All right, let's find a brush. Here she is. There we go. Leather soaked in wax. I've seen it spelled differently. Yeah, one of those hardened leather. I must have been playing some kind of a game, and it's like, hey, do you want to upgrade to this armor? And that's what it was. I don't remember what it was. I don't think it was Diablo, but something like that. I don't know what that little symbol is. Can't see it. Like a hand or something? We'll say it's a high five. Oh, high five. All right. First guy out that's off white. We're going to grab this color right here. What is it called? Medium gray. All right. Medium gray is what we're going to paint the skirt on this dude. These are the guys that have the linen shirts. Yeah. Okay. All right, for ease, what we're going to do is we're going to make the little sash and the shirt the same color in each one of these figures. We're going to use the same material for both of them. And if you guys type something, it might take me a little while to get back to you because I want to lose the glasses and make some headway here. All right, so we're going to use black. We're going to do a little trick. This is a perfect opportunity to do this trick. Let's get some dark brown out here. I've shown you guys this trick before. We're going to use the same color, but we're going to use two different darkeners. All right. We got our happy liquid here. Yep. All right. So this is our base color. We're calling this medium gray, although this looks... It's got a lot of brown in it, honestly. All right, so we're going to get this color here, and let's add some black to it to darken it and make our, what we like to call our negative shade. The darkest spot on here. How did the tip of this pick up? There we go. All right, we're going to paint everything on here. We're going to skip over the belt. We're going to leave the belt. We're going to try to avoid the fringes as well. Makes too small amount. All right, now let's go ahead and lighten that up. Add a little bit more of what I like to call the core color. Don't fall on the ground. We don't have time for that. We don't have time for fumbling. Nobody likes a fumbler. All right. Now let's just go ahead and use the core color itself. Nobody likes a fumbler. Well, it's some kind of comedy show. Yeah, normally I wouldn't want to start this army, but I mean, I got to do it anyways. They're going to be the next guys up. I got to get them done by the end of September, or nearly the end of September. So let's get a move on. Okay, and as always, I'm sure my white is dried up. Not going to use a lot of this. All right. White is very powerful. You use too much of it, and it just, well, black is too. It just really controls the. It's dramatic. So we're just going to put some highlights here in that color. Each layer you do higher than the next one, you end up using less and less paint. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. All right, so this guy's done. Okay, the base color of this guy is pretty much done. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this same color. So instead of using the black, we're gonna use the dark brown. So you can notice what the difference is. Missed a spot here on his head that's black. Well, at that point, you just paint this. All right, let's rinse that out. We don't want this black in here. Okay. So this is the equivalent color of this one. All right, so we're going to paint everything in that color. Now some of the black underneath is going to show through because I base everything in black. That's okay. And the only reason I'm doing this like this is because give it some kind of variety. So it doesn't look like all these clothes were made in a factory. Look at that, I missed a black spot in there. So the plan is when we get done with these guys, we're going to do the 2 stands of sirloin. We're going to base them all the way through. Okay, that way we can test what we have planned for their basing color as well. We got some tufts that will be able to add to them. It's going to be basically a similar finish to these figures here, except we're going to have some bushes, some tufts on there that are brighter than these desert ones. Okay, because this is an arable army, but they are in the part of the world that's that's surrounded by not so arable stuff. So it's going to be a half and half type thing. No, one of those places like, okay, it's a desert, but it's irrigated, but it's still a desert. Okay, now we're going to take the same color and we're going to add more of the core color to it. All right, let's kind of compare this right here. And it's the same but different. Let's use a different lightener. Let's do this. If I can get to it. Pale sand instead of white. This is a really weird consistency paint. It's got a mixing ball in there, but you wouldn't know. It's okay if it's a little water. We're just using a little tap of it. All right, so you probably can't tell the whole effect here because one of the things is this doesn't really come to pass until, for instance, you've got the whole figure done. You can't really see what's kind of going on here. Let's see if I can get this close enough to tell you the difference. And this is the same base color for both. Don't slide. I don't know where my little white foamy thing went. It's somewhere. Well, don't slide. Jeez. Okay. Won't be using you again. Let's put something where these guys aren't sliding off so easy. I don't know if that comes out okay on the phone. Sometimes the color is not that noticeable. But they're the same, but they're different. Just slightly different, being able to do something like that. And that's all we're going to do, is we're going to do slight variations of different neutral type colors. Okay, what are we on here? An hour? I think we're going to call this one. I'm getting pretty tired, even though I'm popping coffee. And but that's what we're going to do with this army. We're going to do variations of different colors there for the for their common clothing. You know, this guy may have white and red. This guy might have white and blue. For the little tassels, stuff like that. They're going to be similar, but they're going to be different. So, but anyhow, this is the beginning of the Amorites, and more to come. But anyways, thanks for stopping by here, and we'll catch you guys next time. See you, folks.